Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission for Monday, August the 18th of 2014. Could we have the roll call, please?
Commissioners Fuad.
Here.
Kalfayan.
Here.
Sharkey.
Here.
Wu.
Present.
President Khan.
Here.
The agenda for the August 18, 2014 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, August 15, 2014. At item 2, we have upcoming council agenda items.
Yes, President Khan, members of the Commission, we have coming up on September 9th 3 action items. One is a motion to award a contract to install playground equipment at Palmer and Pacific Parks. Our second item is a motion to approve an award of 2014-15 Workforce Investment Act funds to the City of Burbank for their Resource Center, which is a satellite one-stop job center, and to award funds to the Glendale Youth Alliance in the amount of $369,000 for their year-round youth employment programs. Then the third item we have on September 9th is a motion to approve plans and specifications and authorize the bidding for the demolition of Stengel Field. That's the demolition and placement of aluminum bleachers at Stengel Field. That's on September 9th, and so far that's all we have on the docket coming up.
Great. Thank you very much. What's next?
Item 3, introductions and presentations at A, recognition of cruise night sponsors.
As President Khan, we want to take this opportunity to recognize the sponsors of the 2014 Glendale Cruise Night. We think it was a very successful cruise night. We had 2 good bands that a lot of people were able to relate to, and we had fireworks for the first time this year. Cruise night, I'm glad to report, is fully paid for through sponsorships. We raised $42,000 between sponsorships and the entry fees from the cars that showed at cruise night. So we want to recognize the sponsors, and who's got the certificates?
I've got
I think they've been split up.
Okay. Maybe we can read them out loud. Onig, do you have the list, or read the certificates?
We can read the certificates.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the list on my PowerPoint for later on the agenda.
So Dottie, maybe you and
I've got these.
Well, right now we have GPOA in the room, and also Glendale Water and Power as one of our sponsors.
Okay. And then I'll read the other sponsors that are not here, just so everyone knows who they were.
Let's see one of these now.
There's some more here, Jess.
Okay, so 2014 Cruise Night sponsors included the Los Angeles Federal Credit Union, Super King Market, Whole Foods Market, Window Tints of Glendale, New York Life, Disney Channel 7, Glendale Harvey Davidson, Porto's, the Glendale Hilton, Carousel Restaurant, and GPA and
GPOA, Glendale Police Officers Association, and also Glendale Water and Power.
Great.
She's from Glendale Water and Power.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for all the sponsors. What's next?
Item 4 is commission staff comments.
Comments? Any of the commissioners? Commissioner Sharkey, please.
Thank you. First of all, cruise night was an awful lot of fun. It really was, and the bands were just terrific. But if I might give you an update on Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, we had 2 fundraisers since our last meeting. The first was Glendale, oh, doesn't that look nice? Glendale City Championship, Golf Championship. And we had more players this year than last year, so it's increasing. It's doing really well. The finalists were at Oakmont Country Club, and I wanted to thank some of our city staff who played at Shoal, was our city manager, Scott Ochoa, and Phil Lanzafane, and Bob Elliott, and I think Dan Bell, I think he was the other one, and then our mayor, and they all wondered why they didn't make it to the finalist at Oakmont, but that's another story. Anyway, there's our winner. We had all ages of winners, but this was our top winner. His name is Vince DePinto, graduate from St. Francis High School, so we were very proud of that. And then on to our Glendale Dodger night, and that was Saturday night, and huge success. Every 600 were there. We're shooting higher next year. We got to go on, well, this was our pre-party that some of our board members, staff, our sponsor, Johnny Harrison from Lexus of Glendale, and there's Patty. Is she here? She's in the room. Patty did an incredible job just organizing this whole thing, as did Shant and the rest of the Dodger committee, so we thank you for that. There's our, well, someone else was drinking that beer. I just noticed that. So that is our parks director, Jess Duran, with our former commissioner, Laurel Patrick, and Francine Duran. Next. And we had a bus, and it was so much fun on the bus, so the people could go to the pre-party, get Dodger dogs ahead of time, and sodas and popcorn and chips. So it was a great bus ride, and then the bus was waiting for them when the game was over, so it was a nice way to go. There we are being acknowledged back at the Dodgertron. It said, "Welcome, Glendale," as you saw in the first slide. That's our Mayor Sinani and Paula Devine, our newest council member, Johnny Harrison from Lexus of Glendale, and me. And we had certain sections, so we were all together, depending on which section you were in. And all in all, it was there's some city staff and who also been great. Well, there's Patty again, and Teresa and her son David. And we have dozens of pictures of Glendale Dodger Night on Facebook. There's just all kinds of pictures of just a fun day. It was a wonderful event. So,
Did the Dodgers win?
Well, I left that part out.
Oh, okay. I can see. Great. Thank you very much.
Not too bad. So.
Good. Any staff comments? No? What is next?
Item 5 is oral communications. I don't have any cards.
Okay.
Item 6, consent items. At A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on June 16, 2014.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Commissioner Sfad,
Yes.
Kafayan,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Wu,
Yes.
President Khan.
Yes.
Item 7, business agenda. A, action items. At 1, election of officers. At A, president, and B, secretary.
Okay. So I officially am supposed to turn this over to you now?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the business before the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission is the selection of a new president. A commissioner may be nominated by another commissioner or may nominate him or herself. The motion to nominate an individual does not require a second. If there is only one candidate nominated for the president position, each commissioner replies with either a yes or no during the roll call vote. If more than one candidate is nominated for the president position, a roll call vote is called, and each commissioner then states the name of the nominated individual for whom they wish to vote. I will now entertain nominations for the office of president.
Okay. Peter Audit had expressed an interest, so I will nominate Peter Flood.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I do. I guess.
Are there further nominations for the office of president? Hearing no further nominations, I'll proceed with the roll call. Commissioner Fuad,
Yes.
Kalfayan,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
I now declare Commissioner Fuad the duly elected president of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission. Mr. President, the task before you now is to open the floor for nominations for secretary.
Speech.
I have my pen, too.
Well,
I believe one of our newer commissioners should step up and offer to be secretary if either one of you would like to.
Nominate who?
I'll second it. No, I can't do that, can I?
No, it's okay, though.
out of order.
Okay, are there any further nominations for the office of secretary? Okay, I'll proceed with the roll call. Commissioner Kalfayan?
Yes.
Commissioner Khan?
Yes.
Commissioner Sharkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Wu?
Yes.
President Fuad.
Yes.
I now declare Commissioner Wu the duly elected secretary of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission.
Thank you. What's next?
Next, we have item 7A2, resolution reducing the existing fee for participation in Parents' Night Out.
Good afternoon, President Fuad, members of the Commission and staff. I'm Maggie Kavarian, Community Services Supervisor overseeing Spar Heights Community Center. Parents' Night Out was last scheduled at Spar Heights Community Center and at Pacific Park Community Center back in 2012. Numerous attempts at promoting and scheduling Parents' Night Out have been made by staff at both community centers, and we only had about 3 to 4 inquiries every time we tried hosting it. And it was noted that the cost of the service was not affordable to families with more than one child. Program staff has opted to hold off on promoting and providing this service up until now, and staff recommends reducing the existing fee from $25 down to $15 per child to make it more affordable to families. We believe that this small reduction in the fees will yield an increase in registration, which will help offset the costs associated with holding the program at the community centers.
Any questions or comments?
Can you tell me what's the night out with the parents?
A Parents' Night Out program is when parents drop off their kids at one of our community centers, and we have recreation leaders that provide games, activities, dinner, programs for them, and they stay until midnight. So it's from 6 p.m. till 12 midnight. Parents have a chance to go out, enjoy their evening, and what we're really trying to do is, if this passes, we would like to collaborate with downtown business associations and Montrose Park Association, and what we want to do is have them promote the Parents' Night Out as well, where the parents can go to one of these businesses while we take care of their kids.
Is this for every night or just the weekends?
We're actually thinking about doing it 4 times a year and possibly expanding it to all 4 community centers in the future if it's as successful as we think it will be.
So it's seasonal, just.
Quick question. Could you share with us as to the level of participation for the past 3-4 years? So has it been steadily declining due to the...
I'll be honest with you, we've had about 6 kids at Spar Heights, and Pacific Park probably had 6 to 8 kids. And that is, it just doesn't offset the costs. We need at least 12 kids to help break even.
So how is this promoted to prospective parents?
We promoted it through our day camp programs, so we have a list of those, the contact information. We promoted it at our community centers and in our leisure guide, and unfortunately it just did not fly. And we were told time and again from parents who have more than one child, if they have 3 kids, $75 is a lot to pay for child care. And then you have to consider the fact that the parents want to go out and enjoy themselves as well, and it was just not affordable to them.
How many hours are the kids being taken care of?
From 6 p.m. until midnight.
For 6 hours, $25. Sign me up.
Well, we're asking for it to be 15.
Well, yeah, so
right.
have we ever given any consideration to maybe having a tier? So if there's multiple kids, like the first kid being 25 and the second maybe being 15 and the third being 10? I mean, would that be something that we could consider?
We actually tried, we considered possibly having it be $25 per family, and then that got, with the wording got a little kind of vague, because then you could say, well, my sister's child is here visiting from. So we were thinking that if it's $15, it's just more doable, because we looked at our day camp rate, and our day camps at Spar Heights are $50 a week. So we thought, okay, that's $10 a day, including the price of the meal, because we do a Friday meal as well at Spar Heights, and that's a $5 fee that we charge. So we figured $15 is fair, because that's what we do over there for day camps.
What type of activities are the kids engaged in the 6 hours of their life?
Arts and crafts. They pick a movie for the evening, so that's something we provide as well. We have, obviously, each community center has its own activities. We have a karaoke machine, for instance, at Spar. We have the Wii games. We have billiards tables. And I think we're actually going to be getting a pinball machine very soon as well.
And how old are the children?
Ages 5 to 12. So it is very specific.
You might have said it, and I didn't grasp it. You've been doing this for how long?
Well, this program has been going on since 2008, I believe. Is that correct?
President Fuad, members of the commission, we started in 2008 at Spar Heights all the way up until 2012. And since we had lower enrollment, we stopped the program. So now reducing the fees to $15 per child. We'll have 2 recreation leaders work each night till midnight, provide activities and games and so on, depending on the facility. So if we have it at Pacific Community Center, they have the recreation room, they have the soccer field if they want to go out and play, or the basketball gym. Maple Park, same. We'll have the recreation room and the gym. It depends what facility. So our main thing is we like to collaborate, as Maggie mentioned, with the Montrose Merchants Association and DGA, basically have a parents' night out, or babysitting. It's not a babysitting service, but we like to encourage people to buy in Glendale and just hang out in Glendale, and we can basically take care of their children. At the same time, they're eating at our establishments or shopping at our establishments, and then they're using our services. So not only will we be providing the child care services, they'll also be in Glendale, enjoying a night out with, family and friends.
I mean, it sounds like it's not that well used. I mean, for reducing the fee, that's great. I'm not sure if that's going to do much by dropping it $10. But to try to couple it with the merchants, I like that. That makes sense. I just think at some point, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? So, I mean, if this doesn't work, I don't think we just keep next year, we're going to reduce it to $5, or next year we're going to do whatever. I think you give it a shot. You've been doing it now for 4 years. You try this one thing, and if it doesn't work, then that's it.
Yes.
Do other cities have successful programs or more populated?
I'm actually not certain if other cities provide this type of service.
So sort of as you said, if you had 12 kids, it's $180 a night per center. So if you had 12 at each, it would pay for itself.
Yes.
In addition to collaborating with the local merchants, have we given any consideration to getting this word out through GUSD, those folders I'm aware of that they have, especially the youth, the elementary kids? I mean, I figure if the parents are aware of it and they have an option as such, where it's very nominal to me for, I would think that they would want to take advantage of it. It's a matter of getting the word out to them. And I think coupling with the local merchants, but I mean, we definitely think that I think that we need to get the GUSD to be a partner in this and getting the word out.
Yes, we're going to include flyers in the Thursday folder, all our social media outlets. We'll go ahead and work with GTV6 to put something on Look Ahead and so on to market the program.
President Fowd, if I may, the questions you're asking are exactly the questions that we ask ourselves or that I ask the staff. Frankly, the program has been somewhat in hiatus. My first question was, well, if the program's not going to pay for itself, we shouldn't be trying, something new if it's not going to be able to support itself. But staff convinced me that it's something that they would like to revive and try again, and maybe with better marketing, a different pricing structure, better coordination with the Economic Development Department and everything that they do, and all of the social media advertising that they do, and the Downtown Glendale Association. We'd like to give it another shot. And it is very much a high-end, a structured recreation babysitting service, but with professional staff doing neat things like watching movies, playing caroms, playing other games at one of our community centers. So we'd like to give the program another try and see if we can't make it work better this time. And that's really the gist of what we're requesting today.
How many times a year is this program?
We'd like to do it 4 times a year.
Maybe there is no consistency. Maybe that's why we don't have.
That's a good point. Maybe once a month isn't too much more of a stretch. And you're right. That way, Glendale families know that once a month, maybe the same second or third Friday of the month, whatever the case might be, that this service will be there. And then they can plan their night out, and that's the idea. They plan a mother-father night out, and they can leave their kids with us. No, they'll be well taken care of. They'll be playing games all evening and getting refreshments. And you're right, and they can plan it. So maybe we can do that.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Anything else? Yes, roll call, please, on the motion to reduce the fee.
President Fuad, if we could have somebody move and second the motion.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move.
Are we approving it as amended, as suggested, or are we doing it as the way it's written here?
Well, does the resolution talk about number of nights or just the fee
Does
reduction?
not.
Just the fee?
Exactly.
So we'll leave it to your discretion how often to have it.
We'll add that to the motion. We'll add we'll add a monthly program.
Well, do you want to, I mean, you're sort of tying yourself down. Do you want to do that, or once you say it's sort of at your discretion?
We might want to leave it open.
I would leave it as is, and then we'll come to commission if we want to increase the frequency of the program. We'll start off with advertising it once a month. Let it be second Friday or third Friday of the month, and then we'll
report back.
Because this motion now doesn't mention the number of nights.
It's just a reduction in fees, yes.
So the motion as is then. So we've had a first, I guess.
I move to reduce the fees to $15.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Sorry, who seconded?
Otto, yeah.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the resolution, in addition to reducing the fee, also expands it to all of the community centers.
That's fine, thank you.
Commissioners Kalfayan,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes?
Sharkey,
Yes.
Wu,
Yes.
President Fuad.
Yes. Next item, please.
7B, reports information only at One Pacific Community Center Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Fuad, members of the Commission. My name is Saval Garabidian, Community Services Supervisor at Pacific Community Center. Pacific Community Center opened its doors in September of 2003. It is one of 3 buildings at the PACET complex, which also include Edison Elementary School and Pacific Park Branch Library. And it's also one of our 4 community centers here in the city. The center provides numerous services to the community, including lifelong learning classes for youth, adults, and seniors in the form of basketball, gymnastics, visual arts, and various martial arts styles. It also provides exercise classes for seniors 3 times a week and a line dancing class once a week. The facility offers drop-in programs in the form of basketball, volleyball, and badminton. And after the grand opening of the artificial turf soccer field in March of 2014, we are also able to provide drop-in soccer for youth and adults 7 days a week. We also offer Tot Time at the facility, a drop-in program where parents and caretakers bring their child or children to the facility to socialize with other kids and interact in a fun and safe environment. In a recent partnership with Glendale Adventist Hospital, during Tot Time, parents can also participate in a free and informative workshop on how to make healthier daily shopping and cooking decisions. And the workshops include how to prepare a healthier meal or a healthier snack, or what parents should be looking for when they're going out and buying snacks or any type of food. The center is also home to Cool Days Day Camp, which is for children ages 4 to 12 years of age. The day camp is extremely popular in the summer, especially reaching 50% capacity this year within the first 2 days of registration, and then selling out after the first week after registration opened. Pacific Community Center is one of 3 senior nutritional meals program sites, offering lunch to seniors at a suggested donation of $2.50 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. In partnership with Glendale College, it also offers lifelong learning classes for seniors. Pacific Community Center offers a wide variety of facilities for rent, such as our baseball and soccer fields and our indoor facilities, which include the gyms and our 4 meeting rooms. During the fiscal year of 2013-14, we processed 475 permits, and the spaces could be set up to accommodate just about any type of event, ranging from 8 people to 1,000. During fiscal year 2013 and 2014, department staff organized and/or co-sponsored the following community events: Pacific Community Center 10th Anniversary, Cesar Chavez Commemorative Event, Veterans Job Fair, Earth Day, National Night Out, Spring Extravaganza, National Charities League Annual Rummage Sale, and GUSD State of the Schools event. Pacific Community Center staff are also responsible for renting and staffing the Glendale Rocks climbing wall and the Party on the Go rental package. Finally, Pacific Community Center is also home to the department's Youth and Family Services. Youth and Family Services staff provide outreach and referral services to teens and families. It also uses the facility to attract teens by organizing recreational activities such as CrossFit 360, drop-in skate, and various types of basketball-related contests such as a 3-on-3 tournament and a basketball skills competition. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any, or to clarify any portion of the report.
Concessions are, for a whole year, it's $430?
Yes, the concession is actually from our snack shop that we contract with Vaquero Little League, and they use the snack shop, and in turn, a percentage of their revenue is turned into Pacific Community Center. So that's the $430 that you see from the concession stand, actually.
So we get a very small percentage of the concession stand that's run by the leagues.
Any other questions or comments? I have a question. The revenue on your chart here is $286,000, which I assume is just the total of the revenue here is $286. That's the total of the revenue.
That's the total gross income, correct.
And what's the 180 represent?
That's the net profit loss when you deduct like the staff fees from the day camps. Or all of our day camps, for example, run out of that revenue account. So the staff that's working for a day camp gets charged from that revenue account, from that enterprise fund. So after all the expenses are reduced from rentals, from day camps, or whatever else, the net profit loss is $180,000.
So the city made $180,000?
Correct.
The city made $180,000. The revenue is deposited into the enterprise account, and then as Sevag mentioned, that the maintenance and operation salaries, some full-time and hourly salaries that work, or the recreation programs are deducted from that account or used from that account. So total revenue is 180. That's me. That was positive.
So did that mean the enterprise fund was increased by 180?
Yes.
Okay. And the other source is the general fund?
Yes.
Which isn't, that's just out there, that's paid.
Yeah. Yes, that's from our 101 general fund.
So President Fad, if I may, another way of looking at this is the total cost to run the community center with all of the programs, including the programs where we charge fees, which is the enterprise programs. Total expenditures is the 480 paid out of the general fund, and the 105 paid through the enterprise fund. So total operating expenses are almost $600,000. Then what we get in income is from the enterprise fund, which is 286. So when you include the general fund costs, it's not a profit. But when you look at it only in terms of what we collected in fees and the staff and maintenance costs attributed to those programs where we charge fees, there would be $180,000 profit. Does that make sense, or did I confuse it further?
It's enough for me. Any other comments? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Item 7B2, Citywide Sports Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Fuad and members of the Commission. I'm Gabrielle Golia, and I'm the Community Services Supervisor at the Sports Complex, which includes the citywide sports program and aquatics programs and skate park. I'm here today to present to you the annual program and revenue report for the citywide sports component of our section. Staff operate both the complex and the citywide sports and related programs, which we also operate the Pacific Pool, the wading pools, and the skate park, all out of our one office. Citywide sports includes 12 fields that are scheduled to youth programs, youth group programs, as well as private groups and schools. It also includes the tennis vendor contracts. We have 2 contracts currently going, one at Fremont and one at Glorieta Tennis Courts. And there's a third site that we pull a permit for from the Glendale Unified School District at Glendale High School. And we allow one of our contractors to operate classes there due to the closure of the central tennis courts back when the ARC was under construction. Included in the revenue sources for citywide sports is the Adult Basketball League, and then also our sports contract classes for both youth and adults. The citywide sports account, the enterprise account, supported a portion of 1 full-time staff person and 2 hourly staff. They help do all of our reservations as well as run the contract class programs. And the Citywide Sports General Fund supported the remainder of that 1 full-time staff person, as well as a custodial worker who's an hourly staff person. Contract classes have been showing an overall decrease of approximately 24% compared to last year. Staff, we've been researching this. It's across the board. Most of the classes are all showing the same decrease, regardless of whether it's tennis or soccer, or who the contract instructor is. Our feedback has been generally very positive, so we're not receiving any complaints about the contract classes from people. The staff are unsure why, except that we are seeing a rise in the club sports. So we think that some of our younger participants in youth sports are going over to club programs, club tennis, club soccer, and that might be resulting in some of our losses of participants in the contract classes. We did bring in $56,644 in revenue in contract classes. It is a decrease over last year, which is explained by our decrease in participation. We have permitted more hours on the citywide fields this fiscal year as compared to last year. We do give the fields free to the approved community youth groups, and then we permit the fields out to paying groups, such as schools, adults, and private groups, whether they're the club sports or private adult groups. The current approved community youth group list that the sports complex contracts out to is the Glendale Little League. There are 4 leagues within that. Crescenta Sports Association Baseball, Connie Mack Baseball, Babe Ruth Baseball, AYSO Region 88 Soccer, Hominitmen Ararat Soccer, Far West United Soccer, and the Levinostoyan Foundation Soccer Group. Total revenue in the citywide sports rentals was $48,250 this year, which is a decrease from 2012-13. We did lose Stengel revenue this fiscal year due to the MOU with the Glendale Unified School District, and so that is pretty much what we're attributing that loss to. We did also have increased time to the youth groups. They're receiving the fields for free, so that will account for a loss in revenue as well. Overall fiscal impact, our general fund expenses were $152,871. Enterprise fund expenses were $199,044. And we had revenue of $181,579 in the enterprise fund. So similar to Pacific, we're operated half out of the enterprise fund and half out of the general fund. Our overall expenses in citywide sports was $351,915, with that offset of $181,579 in revenue to help support it. There is a loss both in the enterprise fund and overall as a program. The department realizes a profit in the enterprise fund in other areas, such as the sports complex and also the Pacific Enterprise Fund. Those are two examples. And those profits do support the losses in the citywide sports enterprise fund. It was a decrease in the loss over last year. We are showing an improvement. We did cut expenses and both in maintenance and operations and in staffing this year. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
On the concessions,
Yes.
Is it decreased or increased this year?
Concessions is slightly higher this year than last year. We bring in the same very small portion of the snack bar lease and concession money from the Little League snack bars at Montrose Park and Dunsmore Park. And then we also bring in the contract or the leases and concessions for the tennis concessionaires. Those are set amounts that the vendors are paying on a monthly basis.
A few questions. You mentioned that I guess it was a 24% approximately decrease, and you're attributing that to a lot of the club sports. Is that what else could it be? And I guess I want to frame the question. I'm not of the opinion that all of the things that we offer in parks has to be profitable. I think there's a quality of life issue. I think there's, especially with youth groups, we want them to be using our fields. So I'm framing the question in that light. Is our fees, is it possibly due to we've been increasing fees, and it's not just going to the club sports, it's also the fees are a little bit higher?
I don't feel it's that, honestly, because we have not increased our contract class fees for these particular programs in at least 4 or 5 years. Our contractors are the ones who set the fees. However, looking back over the history of it, they've been very consistent. And we did analyze that in looking at our numbers to see, are we pricing ourselves out of the classes? I've also looked at the competition in other cities and also within our own department. You know, what is out there? Are we offering tennis classes at another site, or is Pasadena offering something that might be lower? And I'm not seeing it. Our prices are actually very competitive, if not lower. We're unsure, and I've actually discussed this at length with a couple of my concessionaires, of my contract instructors and the companies that we work with, and everybody's noticing this trend, and we're all struggling to identify the reason why. We are attempting to put up more banners. I've been working, for instance, with the skate park this summer, and we created some banners and put them up at the park site to help increase advertising. It's hard to say what it is because we did switch from the paper leisure guide to the online a number of years ago, and this is a more recent dip in participation. So I don't think it's necessarily because of that, especially with people now really going online to look at things. I can't attribute it to that. So we are struggling a bit in this area.
If I may, Gabrielle, is it safe to say that we've never made a profit through our contract classes, right? Don't we typically break even?
Contract classes generally are a break-even program. We do look at them as a service, very much so, to the community, offering these types of sports and recreation classes. We're not looking to necessarily make a profit, but we are looking to at least see why a trend is happening and why we're losing participation regularly.
But we agree wholeheartedly that there are certain programs that we offer that are enterprise programs, meaning programs where people pay fees to use the service, like our day camps, like contract classes, like other recreation programs, like the skate park, where like our aquatics programs or the swimming pool, where we know that we're never going to break even. But you're right, these are public services that we feel we need to be offering to the residents of Glendale as a typical parks department. And then there are other programs and services which we design more to be able to make a profit or to offset the losses. For example, the adult leagues, we do pretty well, and we're at the market, and the demand is there, so we're able to charge higher fees for adult leagues or private groups, and so we do. And so that offsets the losses. We have approximately 23 enterprise fund programs where we charge fees. And I would say of the 23, maybe half we make a profit, and half we either break even or will never make a profit. And that's just the way it is. And that's why, in addition to the enterprise fund, of course, we have to rely on the general fund, which is the budget that we get from the city of Glendale. So it's both funding sources balancing each other out.
I hope you keep looking to figure out why that decrease is happening.
We are, absolutely.
Could one reason be demographics? There's fewer younger people in the city?
I don't know. I have heard that the youth AYSO groups and little leagues are constantly growing. Their numbers seem to be maintaining and or increasing, so it's hard to say whether it's that. I do know that some of the schools are offering programs such as tennis camps during the summer, and they may be picking up some of the children in after-school programming that's free or potentially lower cost. That's part of the research we're doing right now this year, is to find out what else is going on through some of the programs that are offered by the Glendale Unified School District.
Now, you mentioned club sports where you thought were taking some. Does the city benefit from that, or do we charge club sports?
We do.
Is that reflected in these numbers? Or?
That wouldn't be reflected necessarily here, because that number would be a revenue from field rentals. For instance, if one of our club sport groups in soccer is picking up younger kids and they're taking in 4-year-olds now, that would compete with our classes, our soccer classes, for instance, and we would realize a revenue from that in field rentals at the Glendale Sports Complex. So that wouldn't be reflected in citywide sports, but might be reflected in increased revenue for field rentals at the complex itself.
So these are just what? This is just classes, if you will?
Yes, this is just our citywide sports contract classes right here.
I might suggest, it would be helpful if, for me anyway, if maybe you had a prior year's column on these things, because a lot of what you're saying that's part of most of your report is about changes.
Okay.
And for the other one as well, the one we just had about the other report, that might be useful. And I love your pie charts, so maybe the other one can grow a pie there.
I have a quick question I would like to. Looking at the charts, very evident that such as badminton is not a heavily utilized activity. Badminton?
Yes.
So have we given any thought as to maybe phasing out some of the things that it's not quite working and maybe bringing on something that the kids are actually currently doing? I mean, I know that lacrosse is something that's very big in this immediate area. My son plays, but then we have to go all the way to Pasadena or Thousand Oaks for that matter. So we would love to see something like that where we could house it within the city. So, if it's not working such as that, I mean, I just think that maybe we should give it some consideration, looking at other options.
Absolutely. We've actually been talking with our local badminton club. That's actually an adult sport that we were offering at the Glendale Community College. That was the gymnasium that we were using for free in order to offer that program. And because of the decline in participation there, we've been really examining whether we want to continue partnering with the local badminton club and just cancel our permit with Glendale Community College and look at other things. And we do actually work with the Tribe Lacrosse in the area. They've actually become a very large renter of the Glendale Sports Complex. And we're even looking at putting lacrosse lines onto the sports complex fields when they're resurfaced down the line in order to help encourage Tribe Lacrosse and other lacrosse teams to come into Glendale and reach out to that group.
That'd be great. Thanks.
I'm sorry, you mentioned field rentals. Field rentals are part of this charge, so this captures the club things?
This captures citywide field rentals. We do have a division in accounts between the Glendale Sports Complex and then the citywide sports. Citywide sports includes our 12 outlying fields. These are the youth baseball fields in our community parks, such as Babe Herman, Brand,
This excludes the
and
Glendale Sports Complex.
This excludes the sports
where
complex.
These other things may have been picked up. Okay.
Yes. And most of these fields are rented for free to our approved community youth groups. Those are groups that meet the criteria of being nonprofit, having 60% or more of Glendale residents on their rosters. In the Glendale Unified School District is how we defined Glendale residents. And they must serve youth under 18. So if they meet those criteria and can meet the insurance requirements, then the fields are provided for free to those groups during their season of sport.
How many badminton players we had, and how many times do they meet a week?
The adult badminton program meets at once per week on Monday evenings at the Glendale Community College. And in the fall, we had 55 participants come throughout the whole season, which is not very high when you take into account the entire season. And then in the spring, the club decided they didn't want to be participating. The Glendale Community College is, their lights are old, and they are looking to actually do construction on the gymnasium this fall. They will be closing down the gym when they do construction. And the badminton club did not like the lighting situation at the gym, so they weren't happy playing there.
How many players we had at what time?
We had 55 total in the fall of
No, on a Monday night.
I don't have the number on each individual night. It's
Just
given
an
to us on a season basis because they pay by the season. So I don't know each night how many showed up.
Not many.
Not many, no.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
What's next?
Item 7B3, monthly activity reports at A, Recreation and Community Services.
President Fuad, members of the commission, I'd like to highlight cruise night that took place on July 19th. I'm sorry, I'm getting my... Okay, 2014 cruise night planning began December 2013. We spent sponsorship packets were sent out to 400 local businesses. We had employees from 6 city departments that were part of the cruise night committee, employees from parks, community service and parks, police, fire, management services, public works, and economic development. In February, we signed a contract with Mr. Rock and Roll for entertainment, marketing, and promotion. The event was held July 19th between 5:30 and 10:30 on Brand between Milford and Broadway. And just as previous years, our main stage was at Brand and Milford, and the entire 5 blocks on Brand between Milford and Broadway closed at 9 a.m. for setup. Staff got in around 6 a.m. To clean Brand. We had Parks Services. They swept and blew everything and cleaned everything up for us to come in at 9 a.m. and set up. We had 250 classic cars on display. Live entertainment performance by the Kingsmen. They celebrated 50th anniversary of Louie Louie, and we also had a Beatles tribute band named Abbey Road. And for the first time ever, as Jess mentioned earlier, we had a fireworks spectacular. The show was around 3.5 minutes long. Fireworks, they shot off the fireworks behind the backstage on Brand behind Milford. We had, as Jess mentioned earlier too, for the second year in a row, the entire event was funded by corporate and community sponsorships. We had monetary sponsorships collected of $42,600. Our car registration fees were $11,250, and we had an in-kind sponsorships of $198,974. I want to thank our sponsors, Downtown Glendale Association. They were a naming sponsor of the event. Brand Boulevard of Cars was a presented by sponsor, and we had our number of sponsors: Glendale Police Office Association, Glendale Water and Power, LA Credit Union, Glendale Harley, Whole Foods, Window Tints, ABC7, and New York Life. And then we also had our in-kind donations. As I mentioned earlier, we had $198,000 of in-kind donations. That included press releases, media, advertisements in the Glendale News Press, CV Weekly, Burbank Leader. We got 700 bottles of water from Super King Markets donated to us for our VIP section and our employees and participants that worked the event. McGuire's, they donated 400 bottles of car wax for our goodie bags and washcloths for our goodie bags that we gave to our participants, our car registrants. And Glendale Hilton provided us with rooms for our talent because they were fluent from Seattle. So they provided 6 rooms for 2 nights at no cost. So I'd like to thank all our in-kind sponsors. Cruise Night, the recommendations for next year, it's Cruise Night 2015, I'm sorry. So recommendations for Cruise Night 2014, we like to close the brand at 8:30, a half hour early instead of 9. Start marketing and social media campaign in March. We like to come to the commission within the next couple months to reduce car entry fees, to increase registration. It wasn't a complaint, but one thing that we heard through from our car registrants is, why did we increase the fees last year? It was $35, and then we raised it to $45. So we would like to come back to commission and reduce the fees, maybe $5 a car to $40 a vehicle, to entice more car registrants. The last couple of years, we've had around 250, 260 vehicles that were registered years before. In 2010, 2011, we had 350 to 375. So we like to beef up that number and try to increase our car registration. And then we also like to have sponsor cutoff dates. Even though we like to get last-minute sponsors, but to be fair to them, we like to have a cutoff date so we can advertise their logo and their businesses in all our marketing material. Because all of our press releases go out in May, mid-May, so we like to have a sponsor cutoff date. For sponsorship opportunities for next year, they can call the number on the screen, 818-548-3813. Any questions on Cruise Night? Good job. Thank you.
I like that we're looking into reducing the registration fees. A lot of the people come from other areas, they drive a long way, and they stay there a long time. And we had a car there one night, and it was a pleasant experience, but you just constantly have to watch that people respect your car. So I'm delighted we're going to look into.
Yeah, we're going to look into reducing the fees, and then, we like the car show to continue. It's a really fun event. Staff, we enjoy working it. It's an 18, 19-hour day for us. But the final product this year was really exciting with the fireworks show and all.
It was an incredible night, and great choice with music. They were excellent.
That was picked by Mr. Rock and Roll, Brian Byrne.
Yeah, well, good for him. And a lot of happy faces.
Thank you.
Where do they park their cars if they come early one night before? Have a special arrangement to park?
No, we don't have any special arrangements. We do have an early entry list, which is at 1:30 p.m. The day of the event, but most of the vehicles come in between 3 and 5 o'clock. And then 5 o'clock, we close everything because that's when we get all the foot traffic, and we don't want anyone to get hurt.
Quick question. So you said that the fees were raised last year?
The fees were raised last year.
35 to 45?
It was 35 to 45, and then that was before July 1st, and then after July 1st, they went up to 50. So from 40 to 50. So they were raised $10 per vehicle last year. So I'd like to reduce that back down to at least $5 per vehicle.
So I'm assuming there was justification as to why it warranted an increase from 35 to 45, but now it's just because we're citing the fact that we maybe lost some cars, and reducing it $10, does that directly correlate to getting those number of cars back as registration? I mean,
that's our hope, is hopefully we'll get those vehicles back if we reduce it to $5 a car or $10 a car, whichever commission approves. I recommend $5 per car. One thing that when we called all of the past car registrants, they complained about the goodie bags because the goodie bags were, I guess, really cheap the previous years. But this year we, beefed it up with a lot of little trinkets from, the Parks Department. We provided a Cruise Night T-shirt for everyone. But we will like to decrease it. And they complain about the price of the vehicle. To me, those cars are worth a lot of money. I don't think $5 or $10 would break the bank, but for them it did. One other thing is there were a lot of car shows. There are a lot of car shows now. So 10 years ago, we had a handful. Now there's a car show every weekend. Let it be Bob's or City of Burbank has their car show the week after ours now. They had it their third year, July 26th. So we do have a lot more competition. So we need to keep the price fair and lower so we can bring in more car car
Are we
registrations.
comparable to those other car shows, or are we on the higher end, lower?
A little, now we're a little higher end, because what I've noticed is when we did the benchmark, when we increased it last year, there were car shows that were, $50, $55, but now they're decreasing their car entry fees too. And I'd like to note that we went to 8 different car shows starting April all the way to the last week of June, and we passed out flyers, and we did get some remarks, you guys are a little expensive. One good remark, it was a positive remark for us, is you guys have outgrown yourselves, and a lot of people touch the vehicle. So, I asked that coroner, give us some ideas. What would you like us to do to prevent people from touching your vehicle? So there's a few more people that we like to call and try to survey them and see what it is that would bring them back to Glendale.
Thank you.
Is there a prize for the best car? What
Yes,
kind of prize?
we had 10 prizes this year. We had a mayor's trophy, public works director trophy, Glendale police chief trophy, director trophy. So basically, the department heads and city manager and also Mayor Sinanian, they went out and basically picked their favorite car. We didn't have. Basically, it was just our favorite car. We didn't have a guideline on, the fastest car or the nicest paint job or the loudest car. Just whatever the, director liked or city manager or mayor liked. They picked it, and then we announced it at 8:30 at the front stage, and
It's
we gave
only
them
a
trophies.
certificate that will give them a certificate. The prize is a certificate.
We gave them a trophy.
Trophy.
Yeah, we gave them a trophy.
There is no money.
No money, no.
And our fire chief always seems to select a red car.
I believe it had flames on it this time.
Did it?
No, I'm not.
Great job.
Thank you.
Your mic is off.
Your
Can you
mic
turn
is
on your mic?
Sounds like a fun night. What's next?
7B3B, Human Services.
Good afternoon, President Fod, members of the Commission. Moises Correa with Human Services. I wanted to just go over a few things the Human Services section is working on. Of course, you've got the report on the consolidated plan. And so what is a consolidated plan? It's actually a document that we use to receive HUD funds. It's our Community Development Block Grant Program, which you've seen a number of projects administered through our department, as well as all other HUD programs, including our Section 8 program, not Section 8, but our home program and our homeless funding. So it is a multitude of programs, and of course, a lot of funding is used for parks. So we wanted to just brief the Commission on the status of the consolidated plan. What it is a blueprint for developing our community development and housing programs. And it's a plan that's specified by HUD for every 5 years to develop a new plan to make sure that you're consistent with the community priorities and the community changes and demographic changes that are happening in the community. So every 5 years, we go back and do some survey work and find out what's going on in the community to look at our community development consolidated plan. It is a flexible plan, so we're not tied to this plan that we can not change it every few years depending on demographics. So it is a plan that we do make changes depending on what's happening in the community. One of the strong points is that it does involve strong citizen participation programs. This is one of those plans that involves community residents, stakeholders, commissions, our social service agencies, our housing stakeholders, our homeless continuum of care agencies. So a number of agencies and residents are involved in this plan, from the planning stages all the way to development of its strategies, its needs, and its goals. So it's one of those plans that really does take over 9 months to complete. Just some of the objectives of the plan. Again, it's a plan for the CDBG, ESG, and HOME program. HOME is the housing program that the Community Development Program operates, but it's one of those programs that's required as well to be consistent with our Section 8 program, and of course our homeless continuum of care program. So it's a very comprehensive program. In terms of collaboration, we do collaborate with the planning department or planning section of the department for their input and some of their plans that they're working on in South Glendale. other community plans so that we're consistent with all the plans in the city, including, of course, the parks plans and any type of park recreation elements, so that we're always consistent with what's happening in our plans. It is a 5-year plan, but it's broken down to annual plans. And so every year we do go back to our CDBG Advisory Committee, which our CDBG unit reports to, and develop annual plans. And you'll hear about that as well throughout the year, where they approve specific projects, activities that we implement every year with our CDBG program. As far as connecting with the homeless programs, it does also link to our homeless continuum of care. We have to be consistent again with the homeless plan that you've heard before, and again also with the agencies that are part of that continuum of care plan, so that we're not duplicating or we're not meeting the needs of the continuum of care homeless plan. So again, a lot of dialogue with the agencies as well. So in terms of funding, this is our 5-year consolidated plan projected funding for the CDBG program, the ESG, which is Emergency Solutions Grant, and our home housing program. $8.5 million is our projected 5-year grant total. That's over $1.7 million a year. Prior to that, and 5 years ago, we were projecting about $14.5 million. So you can see a significant drop in funding from the federal government on our CDBG program. And that, of course, relates to reduced social services, reduced projects, reduced revitalization efforts. But we continue to do what we can with the funds that we have. But that's a pretty significant drop. And we expect to hopefully be consistent at that level for the next 5 years. And if demographics change or there's more funding from the House of Representatives, then that money may go up. But right now, we don't expect anything to change significantly unless there's, or hopefully not down, but at least remain consistent. So our total is $14.25 million is what we will administer, we would oversee for the next 5 years for our consolidated plan and our projects and activities for community development and also homeless and housing activities. As I mentioned before, it's a lot of needs assessment, a lot of participation by the residents. We've been out at the community events. We were at Cruise Night doing surveys. We were at National Night Out, movies at the park, and we do have our surveys up online next week. And we do have hard copy written surveys, which will show you a copy of that. So surveys are one method that we use to get that input from the community as far as what the needs are. One of the things that we do look at is our census demographics, and you'll notice that we do focus on Severn Glendale primarily because that's our CDBG target area, and that's where low and moderate income persons live, and that's where our funds are essentially eligible for. So we do look at the demographics. We have about 39% of our population as low mod, but about 80%, I believe, no, I'm sorry, 58% of our population in South Glendale was low and moderate income. So more than half the population is lower income south of what we call Broadway, or I'm sorry, Colorado. So it is a significant area that we're looking at. And then even within that area, we're still looking at certain neighborhoods, certain sections of the community that are low and moderate income or have high poverty levels. So we're going to look at all the census demographics. Of course, we do have our needs survey, community events, which I spoke about, and focus groups. And what focus groups are, we're meeting with stakeholders for community development, which are still social service agencies, our housing folks, and also our homeless continuum of care. As well as our community residents, we do have a public hearing coming up on September 23rd, which will certainly have community input directly from residents about what their needs are and what they're seeing are some of the changes in their communities and what the city can do to assist them. We probably have about 750 residents that we expect to serve, and that's a micro number of what's there in Southern Glendale, but it gives us a good aspect of what a survey is and what the numbers are, and that's a pretty good number that we want to shoot for to get that type of input and get some definite data from our residents as far as what the needs are. And why do we have the consolidated plan? Well, we funded a number of city projects and a number of park projects with CDBG, which is our primary priority for CDBG. So we want to continue to keep our parks maintained. And you can see the number of projects that have been funded by CDBG, and starting with Maryland Park, which had its grand opening last week, and of course our pool project, artificial turf, the Cerritos Park, Glendale Heritage Gardens, Cerritos Park, Maple Park, Palmer Park, Carr Park, and a number of mini parks that were funded by CDBG. So CDBG is a definitely important element to the Parks Department and a funding source that would use to continue to improve our Severn Glendale parks. And this is just going back to 2006. If you go back before that, of course, Pacific Park and a number of other parks have been improved with CDBG. So we do want to ensure that parks remain a priority in our plan, and that, of course, we know the residents all agree that it's certainly always continue to improve our parks. Just some of the issues that we have with the consolidated plan is, of course, our diminished resources for services and infrastructure. Basically, we know that the nonprofits are receiving less money. We know that certainly the cities, through its grants, are receiving less money. So it makes it really challenging to meet all the needs every year, but we certainly stretch our dollars very far with what we have, and we make efforts to coordinate with other funding sources, such as our state funds, our bond funds, or our developer impact fees to improve our parks. Again, as I mentioned, the low and moderate income neighborhood changes. We're seeing some changes where there's some concentration, and certain neighborhoods are shifting into maybe not so much low income, but others are shifting in higher concentration of low income and higher poverty levels. So it does mean we need to look more at where the specific needs are in which neighborhoods. A lot of these neighborhoods are actually tied to our parks, where a lot of them do utilize our park systems, such as in Maple and Palmer, are the heavily concentrated areas where we're showing demographic shifts. So a lot of improvements we're doing really benefit our community residents that the CDBG program is supposed to serve. Prioritizing need, that's a challenging one too. Again, so many needs here in the community. We have senior needs, we have homeless needs, and of course families at risk, as well as other needs such as special services, mental health services, counseling, youth at risk program, youth employment. So it's always that juggling part that we're working with our CDBG Advisory Committee and City Council to define needs, not only needs, but also what are to be the priorities, because with such a limited amount of money we have, we can only make some needs. Demographics are changing. I mentioned the 2010 census. The senior population, as we know, is continuing to grow, and in 5 years we'll have some more demographic changes for seniors, especially in some areas where we didn't anticipate. So there'll be some new programs we anticipate and some new directions that we're going with the senior programs. This brings me up to our 40th anniversary. This is actually the 40th anniversary of the CDBG program. August 22nd, 1974, long before I was here, there was a CDBG program, and the CDBG program is celebrating its 40th anniversary here in Glendale as well as nationwide. So there'll be a number of national activities that are being highlighted and promoted. We are continuing to submit our projects for national recognition for to look at Glendale as a model for a number of projects, including the Pacific Park Community Center, which is still an ongoing project with the pool, addition to pool, and the artificial turf. So it is one of those projects that HUD is looking at as certainly as a national model, showing how improvements could be made in the community. In addition, we also have our social service programs, which certainly are a number of them that have really done well and certainly meeting the needs given the funding that we have. But essentially, we will be doing some proclamations with City Council coming up in September for the 40th anniversary. Certainly welcome the Commission to participate in that process. It will be really nice to see some of our former recipients of CDBG come back to this proclamation meeting and see where they've grown. We've got a number of alumni from CDBG, one of them being world champion or world contender boxer, as we know, Matarosian, who is a CDBG participant as well for our PAL program, and we do have a number of alumni that are going to participate in seeing where they are 5-10 years ago when they participated in CDBG. Questions and comments? Again, that's the consolidated plan. It's a written plan. It's all text and it's a lot of reading. So it's just something we really have to do and work on. But the the prize is that we get to see really nice parks and really nice programs and activities that benefit the community.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Next, we have 7B3C Park Services.
Good afternoon, President Fuad. Excuse the voice. I will do my best. I seem to have lost some of it over the weekend. I will be reporting, in the activity report, we're reporting on June and July. For the month of June, our staff completed 148 work orders, of which 82 were completed by our grounds maintenance crews, 4 for pesticide application, and 62 by our irrigation crews, for total labor hours of 414 and a half. For the month of July, we saw an increase to 200 work orders, of which 123 were from grounds maintenance crews, 2 for pesticide application, and 75 for irrigation repairs, for a total of 567 labor hours. And as you know, and for the general public's information, these are non-routine, on-demand type of work that we do, including some projects or whatnot. Speaking of projects, I'd like to highlight a couple of projects for you, as we do in past months. We had 3 of them in Brand Park this past, some of it go back to June and July. We've combined them, and I've tried to keep the slides to a minimum for you. The first one I'd like to highlight is the doctor's house. This is the backside of the doctor's house. We had faulty irrigation that was spraying the house, and as you can tell, water, irrigation, and wood, they don't go well together. So we took all the plants out, we changed the irrigation, and we brought in some nice the drought-tolerant types of plantings and some flowering plants for a special event that they were to hold. And as staff, going forward to the back of the house, we put in some ferns, planted some ferns and beautiful flowers. It wasn't specifically for this event. It was a project that needed to be done, and coincidentally coincided with the Glendale Historic Society's July event of their open house. And some of these plants, they're strategically placed for irrigation. This way now the irrigation will no longer be hitting the walls, and it will only be in the areas of most need. As well as using, as we normally do in the planters now, put in some mulch to control the weed the growth of the weeds. And at the same time, it keeps it moist, so we don't really have to water as much. And mulch, for the community residents to know, always is a benefit if you use in the planters or water savings. And these are some of the beautiful flowering plants, and these will grow, and they tend to actually populate. So if you do yank it out, they tend to come back. And this is a final product for this one section that was completed. The next project was the Brand Park Little League field is being renovated this year. This will be a major renovation. So first step of the renovation, we started towards the end of July. It is currently under renovation. The existing turf, we had to verticut and remove before we get into some of the irrigation repairs that we had to do. This segment that I'm showing you right now only is of the removal of the existing infield turf. There is quite a bit of turf, up to about 6,000 square feet of turf that will be replaced sod by sod this coming within the next couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. And we do use heavy equipment and our seasoned staff to be able to get this project underway. And this is the sod that was removed from the infield. This doesn't quite show you a readiness yet. This is just very rough. We will be grading, laser leveling, and getting it prepped for the sod in the next couple of weeks. The third project at Brand, this is a picture of where all the filtration system is in the backside of the tea house. This is what filters the system for the pond at the tea house. One of them is missing. There's 3 that we have back there. One of them was missing because project included emptying out whatever we have in there to be able to get it changed out. What we do is we put in biofiltration system that would actually help create biological bacteria necessary for the survival of the pond, as well as to try and keep the algae down, oxygenate the water. So this is a new product that we found that we're trying out. It seems to be successful with a lot of other agencies, and it is a very simple process. We take it apart, open up the bags, and you drop them in, and repeat it for the other 2 filters. We have 1 more that we have to replace, so with the next month or so, we'll be supplying and refilling them. Next, we had a minor project over at the Casa Adobe. It does get heavily used, and at times the areas that we don't want utilized for certain things, such as having food and leaving watermelon stains all around, is right at the entrance to our museum. It does tend to happen, but we had a lot of stains, and we'd really like to care for it more than allow for this to happen, for lack of a better word. So we had to have staff get in there and wash the walls and wash the floors, scrub them all to remove all of it. Happy to say it has helped. We were able to clean up all the stains at this facility and bring the facility back to its original and expected condition. Lastly, at the Central Library, we did some planting over the northeast side of the library where the bike racks are. Staff removed a lot of dead planting that we had and brought in some drought tolerant. This will be a model you'll see. We're going to be practicing a lot of this, removing plants and replacing it with drought tolerant to realize some water conservation. And after staff has replaced all of the plants and we had it mulched, the final product would look as clean as this. And hoping that we can maintain them, people will not trample over them. People tend to find the shortest path to where they want to go, regardless of it's planted. And we hope our residents watching would care for planted areas and try to not make their natural pathways. And these are drought tolerant. Once we get them established, we will be reducing the water and we'll continue to manage it with the mulch. And so that way we will realize some savings and conserve water. That would be the end of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments?
Can you please turn on your mic?
Overpopulation of the turtles at the tea house. Pasadena Humane Society welcomes people to drop off if they can no longer take care of their turtles, and they will find them good homes. So.
Thank you very much for that, Commissioner Sharkey. We tend to...
it is a problem. You see that?
It tends to be a problem for us because folks tend to donate their turtles to the pond. And as much as we love wildlife and be caring for those animals, our pond is not of the size to accommodate the sheer level sometimes we get donated. So that is great to know for the residents. If anybody calls us and we cannot accommodate, we will pass them on to the Humane Society. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I had a question regarding the fire in Brand Park. What have folks done about that?
Regarding the fire, I don't have any updates that I can give you. I know the fire department was on it. Our staff was there. A resident had called us, and our staff happened to be on site as soon as the fire had started and called the fire department, and fire department came and pretty much they took action.
No, I've seen pictures of it. I mean, a lot of there was just devastated, burnt trees, burnt palm trees, etc. Is that going to entail a major replanting and rehabilitation?
President Fuad, a lot of that happened in the open space beyond the cemetery. It is not the areas that we manage and maintain for the general public. Fortunately, it wasn't within the park area, and it's not going to necessitate a lot of replacement. Plans to generate themselves, and so we do believe that at one point in time with sheer rains, that area will replant itself. It just naturally will remain natural. I don't know of any plans to get out in that area and do any planting, as we do not in any of our open spaces. We will make sure the trails, working with our folks in the trail program and trail patrol safety, that those areas are clear of any potential hazards of the public so they can continue using the trails. But as far as replanting, there are currently no plans.
Because there seem to be some non-native plants there, so if those are gone, so be it. We'll just let native. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that we have a policy that now, considering we're in this drought condition, that any of the new planting that we do throughout the parks is all drought tolerant. Is that correct, or is that just what we strive for, or do we actually have a policy?
We internally, Commissioner Khan, we internally have adopted that policy to the best of our abilities to make sure every time we do a replanting or a project to use drought-tolerant and drought-resistant plants, hardy plants that can take a beating, and if there is a drought, then we have to reduce it to allow it to survive. We're also looking at some projects or locations where we can reduce turf areas, which is very thirsty and requires a lot of water to maintain. We're considering options of some parks still in the planning phases with our staff to reduce turf areas and replace with some drought-tolerant natural pathways, possibly allow options for a mill's planning and putting in some exercise equipment that tend to be very popular with our staff in the parks we put them in. So that we're planning for that going forward. And as for the public and for you folks, there is Metropolitan Water District, and through our Water and Power, there is some refunds for taking turf out and replacing it with drought-tolerant plants. A lot of times it pays for itself, the project. So we're looking at that as an option going forward to see if reducing turf areas in certain parks of not heavy use, would that result in us being able to reduce water, being able to get a refund from Metropolitan Water District to help plant. So we're beautifying, reducing water consumption, looking at a win-win situation. Still in the planning phase, but that's what we're looking forward to.
Great. Thanks.
How much gray water does the city use in its parks?
That's a number I do not currently have, President Fuad. Although we do have, we can go back and look at all the reclaimed water meters that we have in a given year and give you a total number on that I can do. What I cannot, I don't have that number currently right now. I'll be able to do that. One of the problems, we do not have reclaimed water in being delivered to a lot of our infrastructure isn't quite there for a lot of the parks. Any place that has the infrastructure and has delivery of reclaimed water, the irrigation system is tied into it, and we do utilize.
Yeah, that was my question.
Correct, as well as medians. A lot of medians, such as Glen Oaks Boulevard, is irrigated by reclaimed water.
Anything else? Well, thank you. Next.
7B3D, Park Planning and Development.
President Fuad, members of the Commission, speaking of drought-tolerant plants, I think I can safely say that Maryland Avenue Park, which just grand opened 2 weeks ago, and many of you were in attendance, is a good example of where we have used drought-tolerant plants to stay consistent within our own policies. That's also a great example of a project that's a direct result from Mark Sturdivant's, our exquisite grant writer's efforts in securing about $1.7 million worth of state grants specifically for that project. And definitely the design development team worked really hard to stay within the sustainable requirement parameters of the grant requirements. The state also required us to have an art component, and the selected artists, the artists who were selected by the Arts and Culture Commission, worked very closely with Daly High School students to install the art at that park. Next up will be our Maple Park project, which will reopen, I should say. Mark your calendars on September 9th. You will soon be getting an invitation for that event. That's a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. That's also another example of where we have expanded the existing landscaping with drought-tolerant plants. And as Coco mentioned, once the plant material is established, then the irrigation needs go down. You are also aware of our current playground equipment replacement program. We have gone through several parks up to now within the last year and a half. If you have visited Brand Park in the last week, you'll notice that the playground located on the northern part of the play area has been replaced. It's a brand new play structure, now open to the public. And next up in that effort is going to be Palmer and Pacific Parks. We are in the process of working with Public Works staff to bid the installation portion of the project out. So stay tuned, a lot of great projects coming up. We are also trying to wrap up the design development of Palmer Park and hopefully go out to bid within the next 6 to 9 months, I hope. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Next item.
Item 8 is adjournment.
What, do I get a motion? Ask for a motion?
We don't need a motion. You can just-
Okay, well then we are adjourned. Thank you.